Hey there fellow wargamers, it's your man, it's a Sentinel from across the tabletop, and I've been trying to make this video for about 5 days now. Sound issues, quality issues, camera issues, all the other bits. A lot of it is trying to nail down what I'm actually trying to get across to you guys out there playing at the moment. It's all about how good Tor Garadon is actually on the tabletop. He's the Tor Garadon stat line himself isn't great, and we'll go through some of those stat lines now. Let's switch him over before I get carried away so you can all see it. So this is the index for himself. So he's currently got a stat line of, can I blow this up anymore? Yes, I can. So he's currently got a stat line of movement 5, a T6, which in all things consideration wise, it's because there's strength 9 weapons out there. Anything that's over the T5 is really good. So the T5 is the bracket which makes your models good. With the weapon systems out there that are anywhere between the strength of a strength 5 to strength 9, you're wounding on 3s. Strength 6 doesn't change that differential very much. Then you look at the weapon systems that are attacking you with the strength 6 characteristics over strength 5. It does make a difference to the power weapons that a lot of armies are having. So a power weapon on a sergeant in a chaos unit, say for instance, or the power weapons on a terminator unit, which are just +1 strength or strength 5. It makes a difference against lightning claws, power swords, power axes. But the power fists and the thunder hammers, and then all the weapon systems, heavy bolt is fine. But when you look at the auto cannons, the las cannons, the missile launchers, and that sort of strength, the T6 doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. He's mostly going to be benefiting that strength 5 power weapon when you're fighting against other Imperial armies. Which means it's wounding on 5s, obviously just makes it more resilient. The 3-up save is a bit of a letdown, but I get it. It's a Gravis armor unit. Would like to have seen him with a 2-up armor save, but it is what it is. The 6 wounds, it's sort of like where the catch all is now. Most characters are at that 6 wounds characteristics. Terminator captain, Gravis captains, in that ballpark of 6 to 7 if you've got a thunder hammer. Storm shield, and then the leadership 6, it's pretty much across all of the marines that you leadership 6, and then OC1, which is fine. Being a epic character, I've liked to have seen the epic characters have OC2, but I can understand why they're OC1. It's just blanket. We'll leave it at that, and then we'll go from there. So that's his stat line. Nothing outshining anything at the moment, but his 6 wounds in T6. Then we've got his weapon profile, which is the range weapon as the Artificer's Grav gun, anti-vehicle 2. So this is the Grav anti-2 sort of, people have been talking about with the Grav cannon and the Devastators having that amazing anti-vehicle 2, just decimating vehicles. 18-inch range, so it's got shorter. It used to be 24, now it's 18. It used to be rapid fire 1, now it's just attacks 2, which is more. Ballistic skill 2, so really good. Strength 5, which is where it's at. The Grav cannon itself, the bigger variant of this, is strength 6, which I think is quite cool, but the strength 5 Grav gun is fine. AP 1, 2 damage, isn't amazing. And then his melee weapon, again, the stat line, most captains have got 5 attacks, hitting on 2s. Strength 12, which is incredible. I think it's one of the highest strength weapons out there in combat wise for the Marines. AP 2-2, it's on par with Power Fists. It's even on par with the Redemptor Fist in that sense. Redemptor Fist is like strength 12 or strength 14, AP 2-3 damage. So it's on par with the Redemptor with the amount of attacks. Let's even prove that. I'm going to bring one up now, and we'll quickly see that. But his abilities is what makes him incredible. So there's Tor Garadon. AP 2 damage. Okay. Terminators. Centurions. Yeah, would have loved to have seen maybe an ability for him to be attached to Centurions. That would have been awesome. So where are you, Redemptor? The Redemptor there. Power Fist. Strength 12. AP 2. 3 damage. 5 attacks. So the Redemptor has the same amount of attacks. Same amount of strength. AP 2, the same as Tor Garadon's Power Fist, but 3 damage over Tor Garadon's, and hits on 3s. So in all things coming, Tor Garadon hits just as hard as a Redemptor in combat when it comes to his Power Fist. Again, really, really good. He's a leader, so it means he can be attached to certain units. At the moment, the faction Space Marine thing. Sigmund of Ray, this is where I think he starts to become really effective. While this model is leading a range unit, a ranged weapons equipped with it have the lethal and the ignore cover ability. Really, really key. He's a siege captain, which means each time this model makes an attack that targets a monster, vehicle, or fortification, improve the strength, armor penetration, and damage characteristics by 2. So he becomes strength 14, better than a Redemptor, AP 4, better than a Redemptor, and then damage 4, better than a Redemptor. He hits better than a Redemptor in combat. Incredible. Again, has to be specific against monsters, vehicles, and fortifications. But when you think about what unit you're going to attach him to, that then siege captain with the unit you attach to makes perfect sense. So let's go over quickly. We've got the heavy intercessors. Again, all the stat line is the same. So they're movement 5, they're T6, 3 up save, same as him, Tor Garadon. 3 wounds, so because he's a captain and they're not, they get 3 and not 6. OC2 though, so this is where the difference comes in. They're OC2, and that's because they're battle lined troops. Their stat lines themselves: strength 5, AP 1, 2 damage with the heavy bolter with 3 shots, and their assault bolters. You know, at strength 5, I think it's great. You're actually starting to hit Terminators a lot better with these, the longer range. But again, Tor Garadon likes to be in combat realistically. You get the extra armor save against damage 1, which is nice. It can come in effect there with. But I don't think this is where Tor Garadon wants to be. I don't think he wants to be sat in a heavy intercessor squad. I think his best. And then we've got the close combat variant, so the aggressors. I think it's good, but his lethal only affects them in shooting. And I still think the flamers are a better choice than over the auto bolt storm gauntlets, which are only 3 attacks. So 3-man units putting out 9 plus their D6 from the frag launchers, where the flamers are D6 plus 1. You know, twin linked, ignoring cover. Again, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't quite work out with Tor Garadon. They get a +1 armor save if it's the closest target, and then that puts you off charging. So I still don't think this is the best unit for him. I think the best unit for Tor Garadon to sit in is the Eradicator squad. Now they're the same points cost as the aggressors, 95 I believe. Let's have a quick look. So where we got aggressors 110, so they're 110 for 3, and then the Eradicators are 95. So they're cheaper to have the unit. Yep, they're 30 points cheaper for a 6-man unit, and 15 points cheaper for a 3. So the Eradicators actually do produce a cheaper bodyguard for Tor Garadon for his abilities. Now they get total obliteration each time rage attack made in this unit to a monster, so that Tor Garadon would also benefit from that with his grav. They're all 18 inches, so that every single one of the models, even Tor Garadon being part of it, will shoot at the same unit. And then Tor Garadon, when shooting a monster or making an attack against a monster, his grav gun then becomes AP 3 to 4 damage. So not only is this unit really effective at killing vehicles and monsters, the total obliteration goes both ways. They also gain from Tor Garadon lethal hits and ignoring cover. Which, when you think about it, their AP 4 melters is really going to be effective against that 2-up armor save vehicle out there. That 2-up armor save of a Tyrannid monster or any type of monster that has a 2-up armor save. That's going to try and get cover, maybe armor contempt on it. That 2-up save with ignoring cover is really then effective from the melters and the multi-melters from the Eradicators. Now, total obliteration, they get to re-roll. That means you could fish for those 6s for the total annihilation. And then you could, on top of that, if you really wanted to sink some real good points into this, think about putting the Biologist in the unit and then giving the Biologist Bolter Discipline for sustained hits, so you explode on 6s. And then you could look at doing it in the Devastated Doctrine. Again, you get the cover, but you got Tor Garadon in there. That gives you exploding 6s on 5s with the stratagems in the Devastated Doctrine, re-rolling everything, lethal hits on 5 at that point as well. So this unit of 6, 8 bottles can be very effective. The multi-melter in the unit getting the extra 2 shots hitting on 4s with the complete rerolls from total obliteration on the specific targets doesn't really make a difference if you're hitting on 3s or 4s. It's still a 50-50 chance. So I would suggest putting the multi-metal in there. You're going to see the benefit with the rerolls anyway. And I think that's going to be more beneficial. The strength 9 hurts a little bit with the targets that you're targeting, but again, with the lethal hits and the rerolls, it balances out anyway. You generally get in 2 to 3 on a 6-man unit, or even 4 to go through with the multi-metals in there, and then you re-rolling the damage on those as well. The biggest issue with that size unit is actually getting them in range of the enemy, having them effective on the enemy, and then being able to charge another enemy and then make all come together quite efficiently. So it's a great unit, and my ability to use them so far has been the counter punch and not the leading force. So it's almost you're waiting for the enemy to come into the middle grounds, and then this is a counter punch from this really hard hitting unit. And even when thinking about charging with the lethal hits from the biologist that he comes with naturally anyway, the lethal hits in combat benefit them with the number of attacks from the eradicators. I've taken the biologists out. I'm running them only as a 3-man unit, so I can squeeze the devastator unit in there and I'm running the redemptor. So you know, a 3-man unit for me with the counter punch from that unit is just as effective as a 6-man unit with the biologists, in my opinion, for what I'm currently running at the moment. But I do believe that once I've done a few more tests, I think I will probably go push back into the hard mode of this as a 6-man unit with the biologists and Tor Garadon, trying to get that sneaky kill with the biologist to make him OC9, and then have that defensive unit there with the counter punch into the mid range, pushing onto the back, and so forth. The damage output for this, when you realistically look at it, onto sustained hits 5s onto other monsters and vehicles, you can easily take down, and because it's at each time they make, so total obliteration is each time a ranged attack made by a model in this unit targets a monster, you can reroll the hit rolls and wound rolls. Now this doesn't say a single or one, so you can multi-shoot now with this unit and don't have to target one unit. You have the potential with this to take 3 armigers down with ease. With the 6-man unit, this will take down 3 armigers with a 6-man unit with Tor Garadon and the biologist, with the Devastator Doctrine activated, sustained hits, and all the others. If not, you're looking at 2 big knights realistically. If you split them 3 and 3, 1 multi-melter in each, and then so forth, you know, you have potential for this to really hit hard and still charge and pick another monster or vehicle up in the combat. So I've used Tor Garadon now to kill a Swarm Lord, a Carnifex, the Tyrannifex, with his bodyguards, of course, with the 3 Gravis guys, the Eradicators, and survived every time, and killed with the total obliteration and all the other good stuff. So that's my opinion on Tor Garadon. I am running now Tor Garadon and Lysander because of the ability Lysander gets from with the Terminators. I'm also running a Chaplain in another Terminator unit for that mortal wounds that he produces. The fact that he has a 6 up against mortal wounds, feel no pain. 4 up against mortal wounds, which means that it was my counter to the Eldar, putting out loads of mortal wounds, and that unit trying to soak up as many as possible and survive. It survives against the infantry mortal wounds from other units out there, and that's the big test, is against the Eldar, which I'm hopefully going to get a couple of practice games in soon. We're going to an RTT at Twisted Dice on the 22nd of January, and I'll put a video up again with the units and the reasons behind it. The true purpose of Tor Garadon with the Eradicators is deploying them to the mid ground, and I found the best way to do that is have a Land Raider, and it's the Land Raider Crusader, as it holds 16 and they only take 2 spaces, so you can fit 8 models of Gravis armor in the Crusader, and you have that ability then to deploy that unit into the middle of the board with, you know, a ton of bolter fire as its rapid fire 6. The and the assault cannon on there, with the storm bolter on top, the multi-melter and the hunter killer missile as well. The Land Raider itself produces OC5, so you're putting those on an objective with the Gravis, and you're able to hold objectives then even against infantry, due to the vast number of OC you've got. The Land Raider actually provides a very good fire base for that infantry return fire. So someone does turn up with 20 guardsmen, the Crusader will clear up that 20 quite quickly and quite easily, reducing them, if not making them fail. And then of course the charging unit that's getting out the Land Raider will hopefully mop up the rest. So that's my opinion on Tor Garadon. I have changed my mind slightly to work to Tor Garadon being a vital part of the Imperial Fist sort of play with his keywords. I think he's actually has a placement in the army now. Same with Lysander, has a massive placement in the army. I'm just customizing at the moment the Terminator at the moment, to have a storm shield, and then trying to adapt the sword. I'm going to be obviously replacing that, but so far it's going on quite well. And that is about it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing comments about how other Imperial Fist lists are doing and where people are leading. And I will absolutely do a video on the list that I'm currently running and what I'm trying to achieve and where I think the meta is going to be shifting for the Imperial Fist Space Marines. And I'll catch you all later. Take care and bye bye.